Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Kalani, your host and teacher here at World Drum Club, and this is another video in the 8-part series on facilitation qualities. And I'm going to talk to you now about the student quality, because even though you might be the leader, facilitator, teacher, we have to be a student to understand what's happening, how can we best serve people, what do people need. You know, being in the student role is really about gathering information, but that's not all. It's about taking risks. It's about asking the right questions, maybe asking the wrong questions so you can ask the right questions. So being in the student role is super important when you're a facilitator and a teacher. And if you haven't watched the teacher video, go watch that one. That's a little bit different. But these are all related, right? So teacher at one end of the spectrum, student at the other end. But you know what? It's really a circle. And teacher and student are in there together. It's not like, you know, you're a teacher or you're a student. If you're a student, you're teaching yourself. And if you're a teacher, you want to become a student so you can better serve your students. And you end up being a student because you often learn what you didn't know. you often realize that what you thought you knew, you didn't really know. Or you needed to know something else. And we're always learning, we're always teaching ourselves and hopefully teaching other people. But let me get back to the student quality. I think to me, the way I can be a great student is to stop being a teacher and really crank up the curiosity. We do that in teaching too, but as a student role, of course, we need to maintain a high level of curiosity. So I like to just, forget that I know anything and try to adopt a beginner's mind. Or let's say beginner's experience, and look at things as new, look at things differently. Like, try to not superimpose my own constructs and beliefs onto a new experience. Now, if you can do that, tell me how to do it. No, but if you can do that, that's like part of what we call enlightenment, which is great. Maybe you can do that. I think we can all do that a little. But really, letting go of the expectations, really being in the moment, looking at the quote, same situation a different way. Those are some things that you can do that are powerful things when you're in that student role. And also simple things like just maybe learning how to teach yourself little things by observing other people doing things, of course. That's one of the main ways we learn when we're, throughout life, but especially when we're a child, right? How did you learn how to speak your native language or in any language? You probably learned it just by listening and observing and figuring stuff out, right? Oh, that word. Well, they keep saying that word and they do this thing when they say that word. So I guess that word means this thing, or it's an action, or it's an item. And we build our vocabulary that way, and we start to learn how to use the word. You guys know how we learn to speak. I don't have to break that completely down, but you know what I'm saying? We learn through observing, we learn through putting this puzzle together of, oh, what are all these things that are happening, and how are they connected, and how can I pull this lever and get that thing to happen, and that's really what a student is. So sometimes when you're in a facilitation role, you need to go back to that place of learning, because you can't assume that what worked before in a certain way is going to work again. Why? Because it's not the same. It's not the same people. It's not the same day. You're not the same. I think it's a big mistake to get into what I would call a methodical way of facilitating, or a methodical way of being, or a prescriptive way of being. Like, oh, well, when this happens, I do this, or if that happens, I say this, or that can be a really tenuous place to be, and I don't recommend it. I recommend just really staying in the moment and not assuming that just because something happened a certain way before, that if you replicate that you'll always have the best outcome. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I don't know. See? You don't know. That's why you have to be in the student mode. So another thing that I think would come in, or comes into play when you are a student, is coping skills and coping mechanisms. Why? Because as a student, you're placing yourself in a position of not knowing, right? I just talked about that a lot. I said, go into that space of not knowing. And that is not only a little bit scary, because as people, we like to know things. We like to know the patterns. You know, we like to see, okay, if I do this, then I'll get this result. That is all very comforting to us. We like to know things. Boosts our ego. Oh, I know that. I know that. Did you know that, you know, we even use knowledge to kind of gain control over people, right? We lecture people. We tell them what we know. So knowledge and knowing and all that is really powerful. So to abandon that, to let that go and be vulnerable, it sometimes requires that we also adopt some coping skills. And what I mean by that is just to try to be okay with not knowing, because you might feel nervous and you might feel anxiety. And those feelings might drive you back into the state where you just want to know, right? You're going to go back to your little corner of facts and collections of things that you know work, right? Quote unquote. So I would say just, you know, love yourself, love your mistakes. Life is not a competition. Life is not a test. You're not getting graded, you know. I think our education process, because we do get graded and judged and sometimes ridiculed for our performance, it makes us afraid to go into a space where we don't know the outcomes. But that is so critical and so powerful. And I really think it's at the root of being a good student, because that's how you discover new things. And the people who discover new things are the people who can lead into the future and lead down new paths. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this lecture. If you'd like to have the handout that goes with this, and you can see all the things together, all of the 8 qualities, you can go to patreon.com/Kalani and get that, join and become a supporter. I do want to thank our supporters for making all of this content possible on World Drum Club. But whatever you're doing, be a good student. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. And leave your kind and helpful comments below if you'd like to add anything that would help anyone who is watching this video and interested in this content. Please do. That's why we're here. All right. Thanks. I'll see you soon.